The United States is intensifying pressure on Iran and is pushing other major economies to join its campaign against the Islamic Republic. Since its unilateral withdrawal from the nuclear deal with Iran in May, the US has been trying to isolate the Middle East power and force it to come to the negotiating table again. America has even warned its closest trading partners to avoid doing any business with Iran or face severe penalties. US President Donald Trump says those trading with Iranians won't trade with the US. Under Trump's orders, America has reimposed sanctions against Iran and intends to target Iran's oil and gas industry in the coming months. But by penalizing or threatening to take measures against nations which continue to deal with Iran, the Trump administration is in fact targeting countries for fulfilling their obligations under Security Council Resolution 2231. That's the resolution which endorsed the Iran nuclear deal, also known as the Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action, in 2015. Resolution 2231, which was passed unanimously, asks all members of the UN Security Council to support the implementation of the nuclear deal and cooperate with Iran in different fields.
Donald Trump has laid bare the wider US strategy that's existed for at least 80 plus years. But in doing so, he's hopefully opened the eyes of many countries throughout every continent of the world in terms of understanding what the US actually wants with and from the United Nations. They don't want to use the UN to work on a cooperative win-win basis. They want to use the UN to pursue their own unilateral ends.
Iran's ambassador to the United Nations, Ghulam Ali Khoshroo, warns that the US is punishing countries around the world for abiding by a UN Security Council resolution, not for violating it. Iran's UN ambassador says this is happening for the first time ever in the history of the United Nations. In a commentary published by The Guardian, Khoshroo warns that Trump's anti-Iran sanctions constitute a clear breach of international law. He calls on the international community to resist Trump's lawlessness and contempt for the international norms. Observers warn that what Trump is doing towards Iran is not only wreaking havoc on the credibility of the United States, but is also seriously undermining the United Nations. That's because America is a veto-wielding member of the Security Council and is now penalizing nations that it asked a few years ago to engage with Iran.
At an organization like the United Nations, one should strive for a more democratic balance of nations. So what's needed is a wholesale reform of the institution that empowers the General Assembly members to take the kinds of critical votes that are right now left to the Security Council. If these reforms are made, and if they're made urgently, I think that it would go a long way in terms of redressing the imbalance within the organization as currently comprised.
Is the United States acting responsibly on the world stage? Isn't America's approach towards Iran setting a dangerous precedent? How can the US be trusted again in any future negotiation or deal? These are some of the fundamental questions critics of the American foreign policy are asking these days.